Hey guys, it's Abs again with lesson number 5. So last lesson we mirrored and merged the body so that it's now one piece, and we started the creation of the turret. Now after that lesson, I modified it a little bit. I moved this vertices and its opposite side back a little bit, and I made the bottom edge smaller because that appeared to be more appropriate to what the model is looking for. And I just moved a few verts around as well to better match the blueprints. Um, Now, one thing that we're missing here, again, because we use a slice, what's going on is that, let me just select all the edges here so that we can see them better. So what's going on is that you're only allowed to have four-sided polygons in Arma 2 and pretty much every computer game that I know of. So what's going on here is we have one side, two, three, four, five, and 6 if I'm not mistaken. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect a couple of vertices to actually make a 3 or a 4-sided polygon. So we'll start with this one. So 1, 2, 3, this will be the fourth one to connect to. So just select both and then press the connect button, and then you'll see that a line was added there. And it made this side also a 4-sided polygon. So we just have to do the same thing on the other side to make sure that it's all mirrored, and we're good to go for the turret. Now I'll come back to actually adding the details and such a little bit later. What I want to do for the rest of this video is show you guys how to get started on a wheel. So pretty much everything here was built with a plane. This was built with a cylinder, and the wheel will also be built with a cylinder. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide the body for now because we're not going to require that. And we're going to go to the right side so that we could see our wheel, and then start with not a 26 but maybe a 22-sided cylinder. Let's just see how it goes so far. So we make the cylinder and we expand it, and obviously that's going to be right in the middle. So we go to the front view and we move it a little bit. Now as we can see from our blueprint, this is where the wheel begins and this is where it ends. So we'll just bring it to about here, and we'll expand it a little bit more. How's that looking? Alright, we'll contract it a little bit and move it in a little bit. Alright. Now typically when a tire is on the ground, some of it sinks up because of the weight of the vehicle. We can't really simulate that in Armed Assault, so you just kind of sink this little part in to make it look like it's actually going through the floor, which is fine. Nobody's going to say anything. And then again, convert to editable poly. What we're going to do, we're going to get rid of the top and the bottom faces. When you click on this, it selects it from the back side, so we just delete that as well. So all we're left with now is just the edges of the cylinder. You know what, let's hide the turret for this as well so that it doesn't get in our way. Cool, so as you can see we just have the edges of the cylinder. So let's select the edges, hit Control A for everything so that it selects all, and then using this deform thingy tool, let's expand it a little bit. And once we've expanded it, let's contract it a little bit. And then here we have the edges of our wheels. Now, it's not really noticeable here, so I mean, we'll maybe make it a little bit bigger. And then pressing Shift again, we make it come in just a bit more. And now we have like the base of our wheel size. But Abs, it's so edgy, you may say, which you'd be absolutely right to say. So let's select the faces and then hit Control A to select all, and add a smoothing group of 4, and hey, now it looks more like a wheel, doesn't it? So this is just to get started. Alright, so now we've still got to add this hubcap and the back end of the wheel. Now the back side isn't really going to be that noticeable, so what we're going to do is, because these edges are already selected, we're going to press Alt, and then we're going to deselect the edges on the other side. So as you can see, those edges are gone. Again, it's only the edges on the inside that are selected. And then go to the Move tool, press Shift, move it out a little bit, and this is kind of like the inside of the hubcap. Again, because this is a low poly game, you're not actually modeling an actual vehicle. You know, like every nut, bolt, and detail. It doesn't quite matter what the backside of the wheel is going to be like because not everybody's going to see it. So let's just fill this in. There's a couple of ways you can do it. I just prefer making the faces by hand. You could also use the cap holes modifier and then actually connect the vertices, but what difference does it make really? So just bear with me as we do this. I feel like this is very one-sided. I feel bored as I'm sitting here doing this, knowing that you guys are listening to me. I wish I could ask you how you were, how your day was, or something like that, but just know that it's in my heart. Alright, so we've got that all done. Now this is obviously a circle, and it doesn't look like a circle because it's got the edges. So we're going to fix that as well. Still keeping the faces selected. Let's just right click to get out of create mode. Select those, and then again add a smoothing group. Oh, now see what I did there? That messed it up. Let's hit Control Z to undo. Right? You can see this is the way that it looked before we added the smoothing group, and then when we add it, it doesn't look properly. The reason for that is because we're adding the same smoothing group that these faces over here are a part of. Now if we add 3, we get the desired effect. This is still smooth, and this is smooth as well, but you see the sharp line where the hubcap meets the rubber part of the tire. So that's good. We've got the back side of the tire all done. Now let's get back to this side. So let's select the edges, press F4 so that we can actually see them as well. Alright, so here's a cool trick that I learned. If you press 3 for the border, and then you select the face, bam, it selects the whole border. I only learned that this year after about 5 years of modeling, so it goes to show you, everybody has something to learn at any given time. Alright, so we need to get a clear view of what the wheel looks like. So you guys aren't seeing this because I'm doing it off screen. However, I'm taking a look at my references to get a better idea of what the hubcap looks like. Alright, so it essentially looks like the hubcap comes in a little bit and then it sinks in. So let's make sure that we're selecting it from X. It sinks in. But you know what? Selecting all of these is going to be very difficult. So for now, let's just do this. And I know it doesn't quite look right, but we're doing this so that we could select all the faces and add a smooth group. Great. And the edges are still selected. So now let's make it sink in a little bit. And then from here, it comes out. So using the Y and the Z morph thingy, we'll make it morph appropriately. And again, we should probably add our modeling material to this so that we could see how much it's supposed to morph. And we'll just say this much. No, we'll say this much. Let's make it morph this much because I want to show you guys something else we could do. Alright, so we made it morph that much, and then we'll bring it out because this obviously sticks out a little bit. So, as you can see, we're getting that tire shape. Now if we take a look at the front, we see that it actually sticks out about this much. And in addition to that, it looks like we've made it too small. So let's do that. And then we'll fix the inside, which may actually just be, you know, a fix using textures. So let's just leave this for now. Alright, so we've got to select these faces so that we could add smooth groups to them. And let's make it smooth group. Nope. Let's make it smooth group 5. Perfect. Alright. So according to our references and our blueprint, this part juts out a little bit. So going back to edge mode, we're going to make it jut out by holding shift, and it comes out. Go to move, make it come out. Go to morph thingy, and then make it come back in to about here, where we will go back to the move tool and bring it back out. Again, the blueprints don't exactly match up, so at this stage we're really going to have to go by what our eye tells us for the references and such. So for now it's okay. Now here's an interesting technique which may come in handy. Using 22 edges on the outside of the wheel, we're fine. You know, it still looks a little lower poly, but that's okay because it's supposed to be a low poly game. But using 22 edges on the inside of the wheel, it's a little too much. So let's undo just one step so that we go back here. Now what we're gonna do, see that's just way too much. So let's just, we're gonna use this weld tool over here. So select 2 verts, and then weld, and then just go around the circle, and do that. And what that'll do is that'll cut the polys that we're about to create in half, which is a good technique to keep in mind. Because remember, it's not just about creating something beautiful, it's also making the most out of all the polys and verts that you use. So we're almost there, and we're done. So as you can see, it still looks pretty circular. You can't really see the edges. Let's go to 2 and bring that back out, and that's much better. Now, just make sure we've got it out far enough. Just taking a look at the reference pictures again. Give me a second. Alright, you know what? We're gonna make this a little bit smaller just because it looks like that's the way it actually was in the photos. And then, as I said, you know, you could either create the faces by going like this and then creating each individual face, or you could use the cap holes modifier. In theory. And then it caps the hole. But again, remember, you're not allowed to have a polygon with more than 4 sides, so you're gonna have to connect them anyway. Now if you want, you can actually set up shortcut keys for this on your own machine. I don't. I probably should. I'm just wasting my time doing this, but whatever, it's quick enough. Alright, so let's smooth these newly created parts as well. So let's grab those 11 polys, apply a smooth group, and then do the same thing here, and apply a smooth group. So there we go. We now have our wheel. Let's unhide the rest of the body. Let's just make this black. Now, one thing I noticed while I was watching my other videos, it seems like the colors are off while this is being recorded. So this line over here is actually blue according to my screen. These lines are black, and when we take a look at the arrows, the X over here is red, this is green, and this is blue. So clearly that is not what you're seeing on your end. I'm sorry for that, but just deal with it. Alright, so here we have one wheel. Does this mean we have to create the same wheel on the other side? No. Using the same mirroring techniques, we are going to first affect the pivot of this object and make the x-axis 0, which is right in the middle. And then we go and mirror this, and I believe it's the Z, and then copy. And there we go. We have 2 wheels. Twice the reward with half the effort. Fantastic. So that's how we create these wheels. Now, there are also some back wheels as well, and they're going to be a little bit different. So, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to grab these polys over here, and then holding shift and dragging will essentially copy it. Cloning to element keeps it as part of the same selection. Cloning to object makes a new object. In this case, we're going to clone it to object because we're going to have to mirror it later. So clone to object and then press OK, and then get out of this first wheel and select this one. Let's take a look at it from the side. And oh, did a pretty sweet job of aligning it. Not quite. Now, when you move stuff over and clone it to another object, it still keeps the same axis as the previous object. So just affect it, center to object, and you're done. So if we take a look here, there we go, that's about right. And we've got that. So we'll keep the inside of the wheel the same, that doesn't really matter. But what we're going to do now is we are going to change this hubcap. So selecting these faces, we selected those. They're the shrink and grow buttons over here. What they do is exactly what they sound like. Grow or shrink your selection. So we want to grow this until we have the hubcap selected. And that's good enough, so delete. Again, we want to select this loop over here. So if you press 3, you get this over here. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 deselects. So selecting 3 gets you that, and then let's just select 2 again so that we're working natively in edge mode. And then give me a moment while I go to a reference where I can see the back wheels. Alright, so these ones have actually quite deep hubcaps. So we're going to bring this one back in by pressing shift and dragging it. And let's take a look at it from the side to see how far we go. That's a little too far. So we're going to bring it in about this far and down a little bit. Ooh, I just got a text. Anyway, so let's take a look at this. As we can see, it's pretty deep. Ooh. But maybe it could be slightly deeper. Just slightly. Alright, so we're going to bring this in and close it. Now there's two ways we could do this. Some people enjoy actually bringing the circle in and then making whatever else they need to, as in these parts right here. We're not going to do that. We're going to make it in two separate pieces so that we could save on some polys over here. So again, go with the cap holes. That's all done. Convert to polys, and let's go through the process of making these verts connected to each other. Again, sometimes this is boring, tedious work, but somebody's got to do it. Connect, connect, and we're done. So again, this isn't smooth, so what we can do, since this is selected already, just click on grow. It selects the side. Let's clear all selections, give it a selection of 5, and then go back to face mode and then shrink. This needs to be flat, so let's just clear all and we're done. So that is that aspect of it. Now what we're going to do is take a look at our reference again so that we can make sure that it's appropriate. And it looks like we actually haven't done that great of a job here because it's not quite what the reference looks like. So we'll bring that in a little bit, and there we go. This is more like real life. Let's see how it matches up here. Hey, look at that. Sometimes all you got to do is just eyeball it. But of course, it doesn't hurt when it aligns with the blueprint. Cool. So we've got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to build this inside hubcap part. So let's do that. What we're going to need is we're going to need a cylinder that is obviously not going to be 22, but let's just create this immediately. Now if you create cylinders that are too small, sometimes the Max just ignores it completely, but in this case it didn't, thus making me look like I don't know what I'm doing. So we'll just take the small one, bring it right here. Now obviously I can kind of put it on top and model it if I want, but it's going to be off center, so let's just make sure that we've got it exactly where we want. So the center of this is essentially going to be the center of this as well. So just copy the Z aspect of it. Yes, I'm a nerd. That's my ringtone. I'm going to ignore that for now. Okay, so copy the Z aspect of it, paste, and then we're going to copy the Y coordinates. And now we know that it's directly in the middle of the wheel. So again, we don't need 22 edges. So let's bring this down a little bit. How much is enough? 1, 2, let's make it 15. 15's alright. Right? Sure. Let's make it 15 for now. Alright. Now as you can see, it doesn't match up with the blueprint. Avoid all temptation to make it match up with the blueprint for now. What we're going to do is we're going to convert it to a poly. And make sure that it's also properly aligned on this side. So we're going to bring it in. Let's just get rid of the other wheel for now so that we don't get confused by the lines. Effect pivot, center to object. Alright, unfortunately my phone is blowing up, so I'm going to pause this lesson for now and I will be back in a minute. Thank you for your understanding. Not like you really have a choice. Be back.